All right, welcome back to the channel. Teofimo Lopez out here talking smack about the money man at lightweight and the lightweight division, and that would be Gervonta Lil Tank Davis. Tank Davis, former IBF and WBA 130-pound champion. Let's talk about what Teofimo Lopez has to say about him. However, keep in mind that it is a little bit of, somebody in a glass house throwing stones. But let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back. More good boxing to talk about. Two of my favorite young fighters, two of the best lightweights in the world. One got something to say about the other, and that would be Teofimo Lopez. The other is Gervonta Davis. Teofimo Lopez, I think he's talking out the side of his neck a little bit, especially because I can say the same thing about Teofimo Lopez that Teofimo Lopez said about Gervonta Davis. However, just a little background, Leo Santa Cruz is the guy that more than likely Gervonta Davis is going to fight next. Forgive me for that slip. Teofimo Lopez is the IBF 135-pound champion. He just won that belt off of Richard Comey in a one-sided domination that I thought would be the case for reasons I'll mention a little bit later on in the video. Regardless, Teofimo Lopez beat Richard Comey for the IBF lightweight title. He is supposed to be fighting Vasily Lomachenko next. Vasily Lomachenko is the WBO and the WBA 135-pound champion. But since all this stuff got held up, that stuff is running a little bit behind. We don't know quite when that fight's going to happen. However, Teofimo Lopez definitely has something to say about Gervonta Davis. Now, Gervonta Davis is the WBA regular champion. Now, shout out to my guy in the subscriber. I can't remember your name, but if you're listening to the video, thank you very much. You wanted me to correct myself about Erislandy Lara and mention that Erislandy Lara is the WBA regular champion. I typically do not mention the WBA regular belt as the guy that holds that as a champion because that's a secondary belt. And really the WBA super title is the champion for the WBA, but it's reasonable for people to get that confused. Regardless, technically speaking, Gervonta Davis is a champion at 135 pounds with the WBA regular belt that he got by beating Yuriorkis Gamboa in the last fight that he had. Now, Teofimo Lopez, talking about Gervonta Davis, says that Gervonta Davis is a good fighter, but he has a major problem, and that is lack of discipline. And he said that he believes that this lack of discipline is going to eventually come around to hurt Gervonta Davis, and Gervonta Davis won't live up to his full potential. So first thing first, why is Teofimo Lopez talking about Gervonta Davis? Well, in my humble opinion, that's because everybody in the lightweight division talks about Gervonta Davis. Everybody. Lomachenko wants to fight Gervonta Davis. Devin Haney wants to fight Gervonta Davis. Vasily Lomachenko wants to fight Gervonta Davis. And I would not be surprised at all if Teofimo Lopez also wants to fight Gervonta Davis, because Gervonta Davis, despite not holding any of those major championship belts, has managed to put himself, or has been put into the position of the money man in that division. Gervonta Davis has sold out shows in Atlanta, Georgia, New York, Baltimore, where he's from, in Los Angeles. And my understanding is that in the fight that he sold out in Los Angeles, it was a crowd of nothing but Mexicans watching Gervonta Davis fight. So clearly this dude's style of fighting, the fact that he's associated with Mayweather Promotions and Floyd Mayweather Jr., this guy is bubbling up into being a terrific star in boxing. Also, Gervonta Davis, I do believe, is like on a 10 straight fight knockout streak. So every fight that he's had has been exciting. It's ended in excitement. But in his last fight, now this is where my issue is with Teofimo Lopez. I've heard about the lack of discipline from Gervonta Davis, and obviously there's obvious reasons why people say that. He missed weight when he was fighting Francisco Fonseca on the undercard of Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Conor McGregor, and he lost his IBF 130-pound title. That before that fight, though, he had fought a guy named Liam Walsh. I always mix up Liam Walsh and Liam Smith because there's Callum Smith, Liam Smith. And there's the Walsh brothers out of the UK who are both smaller fighters. The guy that Gervonta Davis fought when he went over to the UK was Liam Walsh. Liam Walsh, in the lead up to the Liam Walsh fight, that was the first time where Gervonta Davis had to weigh in twice. To make weight for that fight to continue. And then in his very next fight against Fonseca, he loses the belt on the scale. He then fights for the WBA super title, which a lot of people thought should have been the regular title. He fights for that against was it Hugo Ruiz? Can't remember the name of the guy that he fought for that particular belt, but he winds up knocking him out. He becomes a WBA regular champion. But in that weigh-in for that fight, Gervonta Davis also had to weigh in 2 times to make that fight. I do believe he had to weigh in twice for that. Maybe he only weighed in once, but the next fight where he fought Yuriorkis Gamboa, he again had to go 2 times. I think he originally weighed in at like 136.5, and then he came back like 2.5 hours later and he was down at 135 pounds. So to see him have struggles making weight at 130, and then in his first fight at 135, he still has problems of making weight. I think that is reasonable to say that he's cutting it really, really thin on this on making weight at 130. And then when you give him 5 pounds, a 5 pounds grace period, he still has difficulty. Maybe that is a lack of discipline as far as getting down in weight concerns. So I understand why people would say that. What I do not understand, however, is the reaction that people have to the fight against, like the fact that Teofimo Lopez would then talk about the fight that he had with Yuriorkis Gamboa and how it took him, I think he said he knocked him out in the 12th. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I do believe that he actually knocked out Yuriorkis Gamboa, stopped Yuriorkis Gamboa in the 11th, I thought. But correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's the 11th. But Teofimo Lopez gets into him a little bit about that. And so my thing is, hold on, man. Hold on. I could have sworn that Teofimo Lopez just went 12 rounds in the fight that he had previous to the fight that he won the title with against Richard Comey. There was a Japanese guy. His name might have been, it's probably not Yamanaka, but I do believe that it ends up with a Y. I always twist it up with the former 115-pound Japanese champion. I think his name was Yamanaka down there as well. So it's a tall, about a 6 foot tall Japanese fighter that Teofimo Lopez wound up going the distance with and not getting a knockout. So was that a situation where Teofimo Lopez was losing discipline and fighting a guy that everybody expected for him to get out of there quickly, and he took flush shots from that Japanese guy too, and the Japanese dude took shots flush from Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez is not on a 10-fight knockout streak. He's on a 1-fight knockout streak. Gervonta Davis that's on the 10-fight knockout streak. So I just found, like, for Teofimo Lopez to say that, it just seemed like, like you're in a house, you living in a glass house and you're throwing stones. There was a lot of talk about Teofimo Lopez and what's going on with Teofimo Lopez and his wife, his new wife, and the mother, and then his mother and his father. He's got all kind of issues. Well, I wouldn't say all kind of issues. He's definitely had issues that have been pointed out going on in his career that point to a lack of organization, a lack of consistency in his camp, and just, turmoil that's going on in his boxing life. Because when you're mixing family You know, I think his mother might have been his nutritionist, his father's his trainer. So when they're all in there like that, and you have that type of issue, it's both family and it's professional. So, but that said, the very next fight after Yamanaka, Teofimo Lopez came in and was more dominant than most people believed he would be. Now, I definitely had Teofimo Lopez winning that fight, and my thought was, look, I know how Top Rank runs. Top Rank doesn't make a lot of fights that they don't think that they can win. That's just how they go. And it was interesting because this guy whose name shall remain nameless had a Twitter feed, and he talked about how Al Heyman fighters were 2-12 against Bob Arum in Top Rank. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure he is, because Bob Arum and Top Rank don't make a lot of fights that they don't believe their guy's going to win, where there's 160 guys that are represented by 160 guys, almost 200 people that are represented by the PBC and Al Heyman, and they have their guys get in and lose fights all the time. They lose fights to each other. They just don't make the fights the same way the Top Rank makes. But anyway, I digress. Teofimo Lopez definitely has a point regarding Gervonta Davis and the lack of discipline. I do not agree that it has shown itself. I have not seen it show itself in the ring. To me, it looked like he got in there with a guy. He hurt Yuriorkis Gamboa early in that fight. Yuriorkis Gamboa, as a result of being hurt by Gervonta Davis, went down, messed up his ankle, and then he started fighting in a way where it would be more difficult to knock him out. He was not out there trying to engage and let his hands go against Gervonta Davis. He was pretty much fighting. He pretty much fought to survive. He wasn't really able to do anything or put it in Gervonta Davis into any problem. And eventually, a few rounds down, I believe it was 11th round, he winds up taking out Yuriorkis Gamboa, and he moves on to his next fight. The next fight more than likely is going to be Leo Santa Cruz. We'll see if he has any issues with Leo Santa Cruz in the next fight. I don't foresee him having any problems with Leo Santa Cruz. I foresee him knocking out Leo Santa Cruz somewhere around round 6 because Leo Santa Cruz is a high volume puncher, and eventually he's going to have an opening, and Gervonta Davis is going to rearrange some brain cells for him. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you on the next video. Peace.